Guys, it's Jen and I am here to bring you a process video using the Freckled Fawn April kit. I'm going to use a bunch of the acetate frames that came in the kit for a background, and I have these two photos of my daughter on this little tire swing by my husband's uncle's pond in their yard, and I thought the colors matched really well with this. She's wearing kind of a purple and pink dress, and then there's a lot of blues and greens in the background of the photo, so I thought that that would be nice, and there's even yellow in the boat. So all of these colors work really nicely with this, I thought. I was thinking it might be fun to do a little mixed media on the background, and I pulled a bunch of different mists that I have that will match the colors of this of these frames. And so I'm not exactly sure if this is going to work out, and I don't want to move my frames. I want to keep this like this, so I've just got another sheet of cardstock that I'm going to do my mixed media background on, and then I'll transfer all of this over to it. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to go ahead and put you on fast forward and talk you through my process.
Okay, so I'm going to start by putting some white gesso on my background cardstock, and I'm pretty much just going to spread it on the entire thing. And the gesso just kind of acts as a barrier between the paint that or not the paint, but the mixed media that I'm going to stick on it, and the paper, so that it doesn't soak into it quite as much. And I am using my heat tool to just kind of dry that up really quickly, and then I'm going to use some packaging and put some of my ink colors onto the packaging. I'm mixing these two purples from Dilutions to get a purple that's closer to the one that I want. And I'm just going to put on all of these different colors on the background, and I'll end up laying the frames over them so that they match with the colors. And I'm using a baby wipe to just kind of dab up a little bit of the color where I feel like it's a little bit too much. And the thing about mixed media, I find, is that it can look really crazy, and then like until you're done with it, and once you start putting stuff on top, it looks better. So I mix a little bit of green and yellow to get kind of that citron color that I've got going on right there. And as I place these colors down, I'm just making sure that I get the colors next to each other that will not look weird when they blend together, if that makes sense. So I'm trying to make that kind of lavender purple color. It's kind of like a soft purple. That's one of the colors of the frames. And so I'm mixing mostly blue with just a hint of purple to get that color. And I don't want it to be too dark or too bright. I got a little bit on the bottom there, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to end up trimming this entire piece down a little bit. So here's some green, and I'm just using that baby wipe on the side to just kind of sop up a little bit of the excess that I have going on. And I'll dry those colors up, and I'm also going to put a little bit of this bright blue color. And it kind of gets everywhere, and I'm not super thrilled with the way that it turns out, but it ends up being fine. I'm going through and taking the colors and doing some splatters around as well, just to give a darker hint of that color, because when you smush it around, you're making the color spread out, but when you splatter it like this, the color's more concentrated. And because I didn't have the light purple color, I just mixed some up, and I'm using a paintbrush to kind of splatter the light purple. So it doesn't look exactly the same, and that's totally fine with me. This is just kind of an experiment. I didn't know if this would even work, but I do end up liking the way that it looks. So again, just using my baby wipes and my heat gun to kind of move this process along a little bit. Some of these drips didn't want to dry as quickly, so I'm just being impatient. And now I'm grabbing my frames and I'm placing them all around and kind of deciding how this is going to look best and how I'm going to arrange the frames so that they look decent, and then how I'll place the photos on top. And so I'm going to move the frames off, and I feel like it's a little bit too bright, so I just took a little bit of white gesso and I'm putting it across the center, and I'm going to spread it out a little bit. And my colors weren't quite dry, so it does contaminate the colors a little bit, but with a baby wipe I'm able to sop some of that up. It's kind of looking like a hot mess right now, but I promise it's going to turn out okay in the end. At least I think it will. I just wanted to tone it down just a little bit, so if you get it a little too bright or a little too much for your liking, just take some some gesso or some white paint and go over the top of it, and it will all turn out in the end, at least usually. And if not, it's fun to just kind of punch shapes out of these. That's something I learned from Missy Whitten, or you can do all sorts of things to just kind of make it look decent. So now that it's dry, I've decided I want to cut it down, and I'm going to put it on a patterned paper background, and I'm just cutting it down to however I think it looks decent, and then I'm going to arrange it on my patterned paper kind of in the corner. So I'm going to do it in the bottom left. So there's a little bit more of the stripe on one side, and I really like that. So now I'm going back to my frames and arranging them, and I'm matching up the colors because I like the way that looks. And this is pretty much how I am going to carry forward with this. So I think I'm getting adhesive for the back of my photo. Yes, I am. And I decided that I wanted the photos to pop out just a little bit. And so I'm putting a very thin white border on them, just using some white cardstock. And you can see it's pretty thin. And I felt like it needed just a little bit of separation from the background, and I like that lots more already. It's just a simple thing, but I really like it. So now I'm looking through the different chipboard pieces that come in the Freckled Fawn April kit and thinking how I want to use them to I'm going to do some color matching. At least that's what I think I'm going to do at first. I'll change my mind in a minute a little bit, but some color matching with embellishments. And I like to embellish that way. I think it's really fun. And these puffy cameras are my favorite thing in the kit. And I knew that I wanted to try customizing them for at least one of my projects. And so I'm taking out these Shinhan alcohol markers. I got these from Close to My Heart, but you could also use Copic markers or any alcohol-based markers, probably Sharpies as well. And I'm just using some different colors to color in some of the cameras. And I'm just using the colors that are kind of on the background layout. So I'm using kind of a bright purpley pink, a bright blue, and kind of a mustardy yellow color. And I'm going to color 3 cameras, and they're all going to have kind of a different focal color, and you'll see that here in a minute. But I decided to go ahead and put down my frames, and I'm just putting adhesive where I know that the photos will cover them up. And that's a good way to adhere acetate pieces like this, is to just put a little bit of adhesive where you know it will be hidden. And so I'm just doing that there, and going to glue that down to my background paper. And I'm making it so that there's a little bit more of the stripe on one side. And I'm being very aware of where I'm placing my my paper on top of my pattern paper, because I want to make sure that there is a blue stripe above and below where that square hits. And what I'm doing now is I just have my sewing machine on my desk. Sorry, it's shaking the camera. But I'm going to sew around the square twice, that outside square of the that I just glued down on the back of the layout, and you can kind of see me doing that as I pull it back and forth in my machine. And then I decide to also go ahead and stitch around each one of the frames. And so I just followed one of the lines on the acetate piece on the frame, and I went really slowly on my sewing machine, and it's super imperfect, and that's okay. But that's also a good way to adhere down these frames, is to use some stitching. So you could put a tiny bit of adhesive while you're sending it through your sewing machine, and then the stitching will hold that down permanently. When I do stitching, I like to pull my threads through to the back of the layout. That's what I've been doing here. And then just secure them with some washi tape and clip off the ends. And that just makes sure that it's not going to unravel or anything like that. And it's just an extra precaution that I take. And now I'm going to kind of rough up the edges of that square. And now I can start really assembling the layout. So just placing my photos, and I'm going to think about my title. I know I want to use some of these purple alphabets that are vellum as part of my title, like a subtitle. And so I'm thinking about what my title might be. I go and pull some thickers from my stash, and I find these ones, I think they're from the newest Maggie Holmes collection. They're white, and they're kind of like a rubber puffy sticker. And I am doing a lot of customization on this layout. So I did the mixed media in the background. I colored some of the cameras, and you'll see that here again in a minute. I'm also going to put some color on these alphabets. And I just have them placed on some wax paper so that I can move them around before I commit to where I want them exactly. And that helps me with spacing and all that kind of stuff. So I like to use wax paper whenever I am doing my titling. And I'm doing my subtitle is she, or I guess, I don't know if it's a subtitle if it comes before the main part of the title, but it's she loves in those purple alphabets, and then this place in the white puffy. And so I'm just placing those down slightly overlapping because I really like the way that when you overlap those vellum letter stickers that you get a little bit of a darker color because they're semi-transparent. So I am taking an alcohol marker again, and I'm going to color the bottom or the top half of the letters and make it fade out. So here you can see I'm taking that blue marker, I'm coloring it a little more than halfway down with that marker, and it's not perfect, but it looks good enough, and I think it has a fun effect. And yeah, you could use any color that works with your layout. Obviously, this is a fun way to customize. And then I am just taking a blending marker, which actually means that it removes some color, but I am taking the blending marker and blending it up so that it kind of fades out. And it ends up looking pretty cool. And I'm just going to go ahead and stick it here on my layout. So it's overlapping the photos slightly. If you didn't want it to overlap your photos, I know some people don't like placing things on top of their photos. You could definitely just rest it on top, right above it. And I think that would look okay too. And I'm going to place those purple letter stickers right above it. And I don't often get a chance to use purple, so that was a good thing for me this time. And I'm going to move it over a little bit because I'm thinking that I want to put a camera to the left of the word she. And there it is. And that one's kind of more focused on that pinky purple. I decided that it fit better in that space above, like at the top of the frame. And so I moved it up there. And I will put something over to the left of the word she in a minute. So I'm taking my black Muji pen, which is my favorite black pen, and I'm outlining the white frame that I added to the photos, and just to help them pop even a little bit more. And I wanted to add that sketchy detail because I know I'm going to be writing my journaling with this black pen, and I'm going to bring it in a few more places as well. And I just thought it would look nice because the cameras are a black outline. So now I'm trying to decide if I want to move things around here. So I moved that purpley camera down to the purple spot. Here's where I'm thinking I'm going to embellish by color. So the word magical, that's that blue chipboard piece, replaced that camera at the top. And so you can see it's the blue on blue. And I think this would have worked, but I end up going end up taking it in a little bit of a different direction here in a little bit. I had a hard time getting this all to come together as I was going along. Sometimes that just happens, but I think it works out. So I'm coloring a third camera now, and this one focuses on the yellow. So you can see the one at the bottom left on my layout is more blue heavy, and then there's the purple pink heavy one, and then there's a yellow heavy one. So they're all three the same colors, but they focus on a different color. So I decided to go ahead and write my journaling in this frame at the bottom. And that helps to fill it in, and it's a great space for journaling. So that's a good way to use up those frames. And I'm just talking about how this place, which is my husband's uncle's house, is magical for the kids. They have some animals, and they have a little pond, and it's just kind of a great place to be. So I decided that I wanted some flowers on this layout. I wanted something else on here, and so I'm just looking through my Maggie Holmes die cuts to see if there's any floral pieces that I want to use. And I pulled out some leaves, and I will end up using a couple of those leaves. And then I pulled out some of the floral pieces that are from the April Freckled Fawn kit. And I decide that for this particular layout that they would not work. And so I am going to pull some from the new Paige Evans collection, which I cannot remember the name of for the life of me at this very moment. But I'm going to use a couple of those, and I think that the colors of them work really well. They have kind of that periwinkle color that's in the top right hand frame at the top, and I wanted to bring that in somewhere else. So I will end up using that one that I just placed at the top, and then this one that I just placed at the bottom, and I think that they bring everything together, and They're going to look even better though in a second because I'm going to outline them. And I feel like when you have one or two things outlined, it makes sense to, carry that across the layout. And so I've outlined my photos. Those cameras, which I didn't outline, but they came that way, those have a black outline. And so I'm feeling like I need to do that somewhere else. And I will outline those die cut shapes here in just a second. So I've got the pink one at the top. There's a small pink and yellow cluster in the middle, kind of right there that I was just playing with. And then there's a large floral cluster at the bottom. And here's where I decide to go ahead and outline those. And I'm just using that same black Muji pen. It's really fine. I like the 0.38 and I buy those on Amazon, by the way. And I'm just going ahead and outlining just very simply these floral pieces. So I saved you from watching all of that. And I also outlined these leaves that are from Maggie Holmes. And I'm just going to place these into my clusters now. I'm using a little bit of foam on the back of parts of them to pop them up. And I like to use the fun foam that you can get just from Walmart or somewhere like that and place that down. And then I'm not sure if, I think that I forgot to push record again, but maybe I didn't. You might see it. I go ahead and add some enamel dots at the very end in the 3 clusters with the flowers in the same colors that those clusters are. So in the top left, I'm going to place some blue enamel dots. In that middle cluster, I'm going to place some purpley pink, and then at the bottom, some kind of bright yellowy green. And that is going to bring everything together. So I'm just kind of arranging these floral clusters, and then I'll add those enamel dots, and that's pretty much going to complete this. I do end up bringing back in the little chipboard piece that says magical, that's blue, and that will go up in the top cluster as well. So that is going to finish it off. There are some still photos coming here right now. I did also add the date on the left, and I hope that you have enjoyed. And if you have any questions, just leave me a comment. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.